You got to remember at a buffet, one important thing is remember that there's that signal that gets sent, you know, from the stomach to the brain. If you know, they say if you eat really slow, you'll eat less because you get satiated and your brain says you've eaten, right? So you have to outrace that signal. You have to beat that signal. Yeah, you have to have like a second plate ready or be maybe seated close to the buffet. That's also a strategic move you can do. You can ask the server, hey, can I sit right by the buffet? That's another thing.
Or even add it
in one of those big places, you know? Yeah, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. Big Rob Partlow here. I got Dusty Hanshaw and the producer Scott McNally. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Yes, definitely do that. Remember, IamMutant.com. Mutant is a hardcore sponsor of the show. They take care of us big time, and we're very grateful for Mutant being on board, spreading the hardcore message. Go to IamMutant.com, Dusty20, Big Ron 20, 2 different codes you can use. Doesn't matter which one. Get 20% off your ISO Surge, get 20% off your All In, your Madness, and everyone should be on the gear. Okay, what do we got, Scott? We got a couple of fun topics and then one kind of serious topic, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering, can I use both codes, though, and get 40%?
You could try it.
Yeah, probably not.
Well,
okay.
I have found if you use my code, your scooper is at the very top at the bottle.
Yeah, here we go.
I found this out. I had a client send me a picture. She goes, I used your code, and here's my scooper right at the top of the approach. And I was like, they actually do that for my code. They do not do that.
A personal touch
for Rod's code.
So here's what we've got, guys. So we got a lot of feedback in the last show, ton of views too. So thank you everybody for watching and liking and commenting, because all that stuff helps to boost the show up. You guys did a freaking great job at that. We've got a couple really fun topics. Number one, how to game plan a buffet to do maximum damage. We had everybody wanted to know, what were your first sponsors? And I have a story too on that one. But before we did, there was something on your mind, I know. Why don't you tell us what it was? Let's cover this one, because I think this is something, literally, if anybody who works with a coach, and a lot of the people that work with me need to know this stuff.
Yeah, well, we were having this conversation before we hit record, and it just triggered that I had a few messages about this already. And I think it was on a list of topics like a few times now, but we just never got to it.
Yeah.
But it was taking responsibility for sending good pictures and or video to your coach so that they can actually see how you look, right? And we were all talking about how frustrating it is when you have a client who's maybe even a really good client, and you say, hey, send me pictures, and you get these pictures and you can't see their legs, you can't see their back, and you're like, did you look at these? Like, did you look at these? Like, do you think you look better in these than in the pictures you sent me, 2 days ago that I thought were great? Like the inconsistency, right? Right. So you get like a great set of pics, and then you get a set of pics where you're like, what's going on here? You can't send these. So what do you guys think about that stuff? Like, how frustrating is that for you?
Well, it really, to me, is simple. I can only help you with what you give me. So if I don't know what you look like, then that is what I'm basing all of my work on. I think a lot of it comes down to laziness. Like, listen, when we moved into this house and we weren't competing anymore, it was like, oh, we got to find light. And when we started with Ron, it was, okay, we're going to try the stairway. Then it was getting a little dark in the morning. I'm like, this doesn't work anymore. Like, we looked for a spot to get him, not perfect light, just light where he could clearly see.
Yeah.
Then it got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm not consistently at the same height. We're going to use a tripod, even though I'm taking the pictures.
Boom.
So literally things start to look the same every single time you send progress pictures. That is enormously important. And I think people need to not be lazy. Sounds funny, but my last apartment had terrible lighting when I still worked with Chris. I drove to the gym every single time he wanted pictures.
No kidding.
It was 5 minutes from my house, but I got in my car, drove to the gym, had someone meet me at the gym to take pictures before I ate my first meal. And anybody who's worked with Chris knows that could be every single day.
Yeah.
Yep.
I literally paid a guy to meet me at the gym, snap pictures, and leave. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what you can do. Thankfully, eventually, my friend Andrew took over, and there was no more payment. I just, you're going to screw your friends, so that's what you do.
Yeah. There's an app. There's an app on my phone. I've had it for like 10 years. And it just takes a picture every 10 seconds. You just set it for 10 seconds and it gives a little 3 count. So when it gets to 3, it goes 3, 2, 1, click. And then there's some time you can change poses. And then you hear it go 3, 2, 1, click. You don't have to hold a button in your mouth and look like a dummy on Instagram. Stand there with this thing in your mouth. I'm like, what the hell you don't need to hold a button in your mouth. You have a timer. There are timer apps. But here's another mistake. I think the button's a mistake.
Why?
Because they wait till they have the pose perfect and then they take the picture.
Right.
That's not how judging works.
I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
When you're being judged, you have to be on time with your pose. It's not when you're ready. It's when the camera or the judges are ready.
That's a good point.
And that is a big difference. So people putting this stupid button in their mouth, they're like, Kate, there are my legs and my arms. Kate, pull the vacuum in. And they bite down and they get their picture. And it's a fake security that you can hit the pose on time. It's not real. You're bluffing yourself. You're lying to yourself. You have to be able to hit it on time. And when you hear 3, 2, 1, that's just how it works for me. That's how my brain works.
Ron,
so use a timer.
I do this. Yeah, obviously you guys do too. This is, if I'm not podcasting, I'm literally doing check-ins all day long, right? And I have never thought about it from that perspective. I like
Here's another thing. I'm taking it further. Screenshots of your video are lazy. They're not real either.
I tell people to do that.
So that's a good way to get a set of pictures from people if they're bad at it. But to me, it's not, because screenshots of video are far lower quality than video or good pictures.
Yeah.
So if you're sending me a screenshot of a video, it's degraded quality of what the video would have looked like on a new phone relative. Right. But also, I think that posing for the timer is superior to screenshots of a video, because once again, you have to be on time. And it's also a conditioning thing, because you can set it so it's every 10 seconds, right? So it's almost like doing real call outs, because it's like 10 seconds and you're moving and you're hustling and you can't slow down. You have to make the next shot. And I just really like the 10-second or 8-second countdown. It's almost like you're doing rounds, and you can just let it roll for like 3 full rounds. And you're not having to take the picture, which once again gives you a false security that you're hitting the shot on time. And then the screenshots of video, which, I mean, they're acceptable. Like, some people look so good they don't matter, right? Like, certain guys I dealt with, some guys can, some guys send you screenshots of their video and you're like, oh, your glutes are coming in. I could see everything going on. But that's because the lighting of the video and the quality of the initial video they're screen shooting is good enough that they can get away with that.
Yeah.
But sometimes with people, the video they're screenshotting has terrible lighting. So they're starting with a bad video and then they're screenshotting a bad video. And I'm like, this is just getting worse. So one of the things, like, I remember when Chris would say, send me pictures. He'd say, how do you look today? And I'd be like, my legs are drier. He'd go, send me pictures. Well, now I have to make sure that my pictures are good, because I want him to see that my legs are drier. So if I go in crappy lighting and take random pictures and send them to him, he's now not going to be able to agree with me. Like, well, Ron says his legs are drier, but he just sent me crap pictures, so I don't know. So now there's like a disconnect, right? So I would be like, wow, and I'd make sure, like, I'd look at the pictures, go, oh, these are definitely, he's definitely going to see this. You know what I mean? I would make sure the pictures were good. Legs and back, those are the 2 body parts that are hard to get good lighting on. And you have to put the effort in. So do you want to know a story I heard? You know Sarah Villegas, the physique Miss Olympia, who's always peeled to the bone with the crazy glutes, right?
Right.
I heard a story about her and her husband. When they go into a hotel room, he has a box of different light bulbs.
Huh.
and he goes around and he changes light bulbs to get the right light bulbs so they can maybe get a better lighting. So he's running around the hotel. They told me that he changes light bulbs, puts really bright ones in so they can, or dimmer or whatever, but he's got a bunch of different bulbs. And then they've got stands with ring lights on them. And
yeah, I was going to say, why not just use ring lights? I wouldn't bother with traveling with light bulbs, but again, I'm not Miss Olympia, so...
Yeah, but just micromanaging the light for these images, because they have to be, maybe they're trying to recreate an exact lighting, right?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? But whatever. So anyways, that's what I was told. So, I mean, some people just, like I tell people, go in the hall. If you're in a hotel, hotels are bad lighting, right? So everyone gets to the show and they got crappy lighting. Terrible. So this is where a ring light obviously comes in. But also too, like I send people in the hallway all the time. I'm like, go out in the hallway. There's good lighting in the hallway sometimes. You can get under a pot light, hit a back double.
Elevator.
But people are
elevator
afraid to, by the elevator or whatever. You know, there's some lighting somewhere, but sometimes you got to walk around and find it. But that's frustrating for a coach. And it's especially frustrating when you're close to a show. Like if you're in a hotel and they say, send me pictures. And then you get the pictures and you're like, oh, I can't really see your legs. And they're like, oh, well, I'm gone for the next 5 hours. I've gone to get my tan and I've gone to do this and that. And you're like, oh, well now, like, I'm just kind of waiting for you to, send me another set of better pictures. So I don't know. That's my take. It's very important. And you guys need to put a lot of effort into making sure your pictures are consistent. And before you send your pictures to your coach, ask yourself, do I look great? Is this do I love these? Would I post these? Like, do these look good? Are these accurate? You know what I mean? Because it's really tough if they're not.
I think you nailed that part, though, because I ran into that one time where it was the opposite. So I had a client that was very concerned about making sure that the lighting was good and everything looked good. And so we're like 5 weeks out, and I mean, we're ahead of schedule. And then coincidentally, I was at a show in his town, and he came over, and I was like, oh, let me take a look. And the physique was not what I was seeing in pictures. I was like,
oh, he was too good.
Yeah. And I was like, bro, what's going on? He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, your pictures, you look so much harder. He goes, oh, well, I've been adjusting the lighting. He was filtering pictures and sending them to me. I'm like, I make all of my decisions based on these pictures.
Yeah.
And we were far enough out that the glutes weren't supposed to be all the way in yet.
Yeah.
So I could see them, but it was because he was turning shadows up. I'm like,
there was an extra like 2 millimeters on those glutes that you didn't count on.
I'm like, why would you do that? He goes, well, you needed good. I'm like, no, I need true lighting.
Yeah.
Not good lighting. Because, for example, lighting that's really good, if you are fat as shit, it is not nice to you. That's what people don't realize is like when you look terrible, like if you're just fat or whatever, and you get under that perfect light of the gym, it shows every dimple also in the other direction. So it's not lying to you. When you're in a good gym with good lighting and you look in the mirror, if you look really good, that's really how you look in good lighting. But that doesn't require like adjustment. So that was from then on, I started for a while like saying, do not filter your pictures. And people are like, why would I do that? And I'm like, hey, it's happened.
Right.
I know.
So keep that in mind. You want to make sure you're showing what you look like. And it's really important. Like you said, Ron, that used to be the thing we did when we got to the hotel, because you didn't used to have like a ring light you could easily travel with.
Yeah.
So like I would get to the hotel and just walk around. And then fortunately a couple times I did Pittsburgh a couple times. So I literally know where to go in the hotel I stayed at. I was like, oh, first by the elevator down the hallway. Perfect.
That little short hallway right by the elevator at North Americans. Yeah. That's a good spot.
I just sent you a picture from that spot. I was like, Scott, I wanted to show them the elevator lighting.
Did you send it? I'll pull that up.
It's on your
phone.
phone.
Yeah. Here it is right now.
This is what good elevator lighting does.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to get something in on this too, guys, because I know we're running a little bit long here. But I had kind of a list of things I thought I would share just to try to say, here's some solid things that I tell people. Number one is I want to be able to see your full physique, right? So try to fill the frame. We want to try to see it from head to toe. If your feet are cut off, I don't want that. But if it's just like your ankles down are cut off, it's not going to be the end of the world. But I'd like to see your full physique. I don't want there to be like 3 feet of sky or ceiling above you. Try to get as close as possible. You know, shoot the camera from ballpark about like waist height, a little bit higher than that maybe, so it's kind of, you know, right on. I don't want your wife to take the camera and angle it down at you so that your upper body looks huge and your legs look tiny, or vice versa.
Right.
I want you to be able to shoot your pictures on your own most of the time, because especially for guys that are new to this, if they have somebody else that they depend on, then they tell me, oh, I had to get up early for work today and I didn't want to bother my wife because she was still sleeping for the next 3 hours, so I didn't get pictures. Let's just depend on yourself. And I feel like the same thing is with preparing your food. I like to be in charge of all my own food. I don't want to make that anybody else's responsibility. From there, I'm totally with you guys on the light. I've done the video thing for people that are just not able to do it. A lot of guys are getting the button now, but there's, you know, I've always used just the self timer on my phone. I found that works just fine. Although you have to like hit the button, then 10 seconds, get back there, hit your pose, snap the picture, and then just, as you guys were saying, keep it consistent. If you can get a cheap ring light, I like that, because that way you can reproduce the same thing no matter where you're at. Because that is the worst, is being able to have a great picture every day. We're doing pictures literally sometimes 2-3 times a day at that last week. And then finally we get to the hotel room and now all of a sudden it's utter garbage. Or you have good light from the window during the day and then it gets dark and then we can't see what's happening from 5 o'clock on.
And there's no more paralyzing situation to be in as a coach than when you say, how are the legs looking? And they go, I think they're a little harder. And you go, oh, send me some pictures. And then the pictures come and you can't see the quads at all.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it's just such a weird feeling.
For new people, get ready to take pictures in public, okay? I know that all your pictures are taken like in the privacy of your own home. The day of the show, I am literally going to need pictures frequently in the morning. So if you get to the show early, if you want to go to the show early, I'm going to need pictures there. You're going to have to find a spot to pose at the venue. And guess what? You're going to get on stage in another couple hours anyway. You're going to be in your Speedo. So, you know, doing it off stage is no problem either. But get ready for that. And that's the only way that we can guarantee that things are going to be on the mark. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Those little black backdrops are great, by the way, too. I've got a few clients that I had get those when they have, and it's game changing. I know back in the day, you guys won't know this, they're new to the game, but we used to just have black backdrops at shows. That's why we always looked really good. We don't do that anymore because, you know, promoters are idiots. But anyways, if you get a black backdrop, game changing versus a white backdrop with your pictures. And I mean, they're like $10 on Amazon. You don't need to hang it on your wall. You toss it on the wall right behind you and then take the shots. It does help quite a bit if you want to get real serious. I never had that.
Awesome. Okay, Scott. Points. Now, from the opposite of looking great in photos, eating at buffets.
That's where we're going next. Yeah.
That's where you look great in real life.
Here's the question.
When's the last time you went to a buffet?
Oh, gosh. Years for me.
Yeah.
Years.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Vegas buffets. Because I can't, I mean, you got to remember, I'm trying to get away from my white trash roots. So like Old Town Buffet, just, it ain't it no more. I'm trying to get away from that. You know, I go in there, I look too experienced. People know. They're like, he's one of us.
Right. He's a hockey player.
How about you, Ron?
Yeah. Well, I mean, aside from the typical breakfast buffet at the Marriott hotels that I'm at, which I don't count, it's been a while since I walked into like an Apple Betty's or whatever your big chain is of buffet. What's the big buffet down there? You said Old Town? Is that what you said?
Old Country?
Like the old country buffet,
or whatever.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I do have a number one rule though. Oh, we got to read the question first, don't we? Oh, this is Hen Solo. It's one of our guys.
Yeah, he says after hearing the DJ story, what are your go-to foods at a buffet, and how many rounds do you go in your peak of your off season? So basically, he's asking us, how do you game plan a buffet to do the most damage?
First thing I look for, fried chicken.
No,
Got to see how
nice
good the
choice.
fried chicken is. Got to get a good like a double breast, you know. So you got the fried chicken, and then it's carving station. Is this a carving station situation?
Oh,
Shouldn't even be there if it's not.
If there's, yeah, there should be like, you know, if you're at like a nice one, like, you know, Mexican all inclusive, you're at like a good resort and there's a carving station every time. It's like turkey one meal, roast beef the next, that sort of stuff. I always do that. It's premium protein sources first, and then I shop the carbs. You know,
I have to start earlier than this. Let me tell you why. You got to plan your eating for the day in preparation for that meal.
right.
You know, it's a huge mistake to be like, oh, I'm going to save room for the buffet by not eating. No. Just like dieting, got to keep that food incoming perfectly. I want to eat about 3 hours before I walk in. You know, whole food meal, nothing crazy. You know, 10 ounces of steak, 200 grams of rice, just in prep. 3 hours from then, I'm rolling in. But we're doing Vegas here. So I've found that the biggest key is you do your lap. You make sure you know what everything is so you can make your choices. And you should not sit down with less than 3 plates immediately. Because speed eating is what makes sure you can get enough in, you know? And if you're going to go to the crab legs, you got to empty them all out first. Like, don't be doing it while you're eating.
Takes too long.
Too long. You're going to lose thunder. You got to be focused. Maybe bring an assistant to handle that for you. Not that
You
I've
got to
done that
remember.
often.
You got to remember at a buffet. One important thing is remember that there's that signal that gets sent, you know, from the stomach to the brain. If you know, they say if you eat really slow, you'll eat less because you get satiated and your brain says you've eaten, right? So you have to outrace that signal. You have to beat that signal. Yeah, you have to have like a second plate ready or be maybe seated close to the buffet. That's also a strategic move you can do. You can ask the server, hey, can I sit right by the buffet? That's another thing.
Or even add it
in one of
if
those
it's
big
fine.
places, you know? Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Another
another tip.
key.
My little tip, I avoid the salad bar. I don't even hit that.
Of course.
whole island. Yeah.
Bread,
I don't even know what's
no.
on there. I don't even know what's on there.
I forgot two buffets that I wasn't thinking of, and I've done these very recently. Swiss had one, Germany had one, and that is the breakfast buffet. When we went to Germany, we went to the breakfast buffet every day. I go straight to that. I try to get there early, get there often, and go to that omelet bar where they make an omelet for you. Now that's my
Also,
Yeah.
tip him big every day. That's very key to your life. I always tip
also-
the omelet guy heavy right away.
That's funny. The omelet guy. See, that's that Marriott breakfast buffet I'm talking about, Scott. That's a great thing.
That's good.
I love it. Oh, yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah.
What's the
There's
one that we
that-
go to in Columbus? That one's great. Is
Ooh,
that a
yeah.
Marriott? The one
Which
we always
one?
go to, Ron. The one we go to breakfast
Is it
in
the
Columbus.
Hilton?
I think that's a Hilton or Hyatt we stay at there.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
That was nice.
Yeah.
That guy, fantastic. That's where the lineup, you skip right through, find the omelet guy, have him make you a couple of them out the bat, slip him a 10 or a 20, tell him I'll be back. It's game
There you
changing.
go.
There's
I've
that
gotten two
also-
to the table before that are so big, you're like, this might be my only trip.
Nice.
Right here.
Dusty will fill another dish too for later. He does that.
I'm not afraid.
There's also the we'll go to the Whole Foods buffet. Now that's different because you're
you're
paying
rich.
by the pound. You know, that's like a date day thing where we like maybe we went out to Cranbrook where they have like old historic buildings and we're walking through the park and then we're like, hey, let's grab some lunch, buffet lunch type thing from Whole Foods on the way home, and you end up getting like, if you're lucky, you'll get like some type of a roast or something like that. And then I'll end up with some weird stuff though, like things that don't match. I'll end up with like brisket and some fish, like fish and chips fish, and like some
nice.
macaroni and cheese and like a little lasagna or something. Like all these things that don't go together.
On the lasagna diet. It's great.
Sounds like some sort of international festival of food.
Yeah,
Right.
a
You
little
know?
bit of everything, you know.
You know,
Scott's not
Yeah,
leaving
yeah.
anybody out.
No, that's pretty good.
I went there one time because we had one right by me in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And I remember I just got what I wanted and I went up to the counter and the guy's like $726. And I was like,
That's a
he's like, you're at Whole Foods, moron. I'm like, oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah. This is an old country.
Can I put some of this back? You know.
That fried chicken's
I mean, I-
$18 a piece.
I don't remember what, but that's why I laughed when you said that, because I literally remember having like sticker shock at one box of food I got, because it was probably close to $50 for real. And I was like,
God.
It's like 6 meatballs.
Yeah. Like, he's like, you got to go lighter, bro. This is obvious, you know?
We usually, like, between the two of us, because Victoria has a ton of food allergies, so that way she can pick the stuff she wants. We don't have to, if we're in an area we don't know, you know, we're like, we can go to Whole Foods, we can get food there real quick or whatever, and then we don't have to wait for it to be cooked. It's like, get that, eat it, and we're back to doing whatever we're doing. And we might spend like $35, $40 between the two of us. So it's not cheap, but the way I look at it is like, hey, we're on our date day, and this is like the equivalent of going out to eat. So
yeah, that's expensive there. It's where like the rich soccer moms eat lunch.
Yeah.
So you pay those soccer mom prices for meatballs. It adds up. Okay.
We had that other one, question.
Scott.
We did, and I don't see it offhand right here, but the gist of it was he was asking what all of our first bodybuilding sponsorships were.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Go
ahead, Ron.
So mine was a health food store, I guess technically, in my hometown. And I can't remember what it was called. It was like Nature's Way or something like that. You know what I mean? The Health Hut, maybe. I can't remember what the name of the store was, but it was in the mall. And then they had another location. So there was 2 locations. And I used to go in there all the time and you know, probably bought Yohimbe bark there, probably bought some boron, you know, probably bought some vanadyl sulfate off them. Probably purchased maybe a tub of what was the Agent Orange, or what was this?
Ultimate Orange.
Probably bought some Canadian Ultimate Orange there when it first came out.
Ooh.
Probably bought some bottles of
Weight Gainer 900.
Oh, definitely bought some Perfect 900. Absolutely.
Nice.
And I remember I said, hey, I was going to college at the time there, and I said, hey, you know, I'm going to college and I'm going to do my first bodybuilding show. My first real bodybuilding show. And she was like, oh yeah, we'd love to sponsor you. So she had a bunch of t-shirts printed up with like their logo. And I said I liked really big t-shirts. So she had these like 4XLs that hung halfway down to my knee, and Blood and Guts had just come out. So it fit the same as Dorian's big leg day shirt. It was like halfway down. So I had these huge shirts, a bunch of them printed up. And she goes, well, what do you need? And I was like, well, I need like, you know, a really good protein powder and creatine. And I had all these supplements. Like, I don't remember what I was taking. This was back in 97. So I don't even remember what was popular. But yeah, they took care of all my stuff. I took a ton of supplements, like every vitamin under the sun, like, you know, the whole, you know, vitamin C to E, you know, fish oil thing that was going on back in 97 already. I was taking everything. And, you know, probably had some beef liver tabs, probably had some, you know, probably had all that stuff, because she was giving me whatever I wanted. And, I mean, this, you know, the only way you could really advertise back then was just wear the shirt in the gym. So I would wear their shirts all the time when I trained. Yep. And whenever someone asked me, you know, where do you get your subs, I'd just tell them where. And they had, a picture of me. They put a picture of me after the show up on the wall. And I remember I went back to that town like 15 years later, and I walked past that store in the mall, and that picture was still on the wall.
No kidding.
That's
couldn't
awesome.
even believe it. I was like, and I walked in and there was just like someone else working there. There was no owner there or anything, but it might probably be the same person, probably the same lady owns it, but I couldn't believe it was still up.
Did you say anything? Were you like, hey, that's me?
Yeah, I actually did. I went, hey, is the owner in here? I couldn't remember her name. And he was like, oh no, you know, just, and I was like, oh, I guess that's actually me. I can't believe that's still up there. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. That was my first sponsor. So it wasn't really a company, but it was a bunch of free stuff, and they were very generous.
That's cool.
Yeah. And we did a photo shoot where I was shopping.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So we did like a photo shoot shopping, and then she had like a newsletter that she would make up, and there was like a stack of them. And then when I remember this newsletter came out like while I was dieting, and I looked at it and I was in there shopping. I was like, oh, that's so funny.
My mom would have wanted to keep a copy of that, because she was
so just think, that was like a prehistoric form of social media, right?
You have to explain to all the viewers what that is.
Yeah. Okay, a
you come in
newsletter
here
is
to
a
get
piece
a
of
piece of
paper
paper that showed what you're doing.
Imagine if your Instagram was on a piece of paper, you know?
Yes. It's like a map is a paper GPS for those of you who don't understand those words.
Yeah.
So mine was a little closer to home. And when I got into bodybuilding, I was broker than broke. I bought my first house and all that stuff. So I got into bodybuilding, and I was just having a conversation with my mom. I was like, yeah, I want to make a run at this and see how it goes. And I was like, but it's tough. It's expensive. And she was like, well, like, what do you buy? And I told her, I was like, well, it's, going to need to buy a lot more food and supplements. I'm like, eventually I'm going to need to buy gear. And I had to explain all that to her. And it was great because my mom was like, well, you're doing all the right stuff. And she had divorced my dad and everything. So she was like, I'll give you $500 a month.
No kidding.
For a year. And I'm like, and my mom didn't have any money. So I'm like, how are you going to do that? And she's like, I'll figure it out. And she did. So she gave me $6,000 over the course of a year to help with bodybuilding, which was enormous for me. Because, it kind of bothers me when I deal with clients who don't understand, like they're younger and they're like, oh, you don't understand because food. I'm like, oh, no. I had a credit card that I literally kept just in case chicken went on sale so I could buy an extreme bulk and pay it off before the end of the month and have, a month plus worth of chicken because it was cheaper. And I chose my meat based on sales. I was like, okay, I'm supposed to eat a higher fat meat. What's here today? Like, I'd walk in the store with, you guys won't know what this is either. It's called cash. And it was all I had. And I'm like, here's what I have to spend today. And I have to get through this. So when she did that, it was completely game changing.
Yeah.
Because now I could take full advantage of those things, take supplements I couldn't afford, do these kind of things. And that's why it's, kind of like Ron said, like when you get to the end, that's why it's always funny when people see you do things for your parents when you're older or whatever. You're like, I ain't giving them any money. I'm just giving it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really just returning your money. And you're making more, but your investments would have made a lot more back then too.
Yeah.
So it was very cool. And it made the process of success. And then when bodybuilding started paying me and I started paying for her things, it kind of went full circle, but
didn't you buy your mom a car and a house, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so those are it paid back, but that's a good invested $6,000.
Yeah, she gave you $6,000. You bought her a house and a car.
Yeah.
So that was my first sponsor. So it was very cool.
That's awesome.
Well, I haven't bought my first sponsor a house and a car, so I'm a little short.
You might have with all those sales.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe that's why she doesn't have to be in when I go visit.
She's not there anymore. She's
have to be. living on an island. Yeah.
That idiot did all this for supplements.
Yeah.
I had one, and I can't remember when it was, but it was earlier on. And it was, and I grabbed my picture off Facebook because this was my profile picture for a while. This is my friend Velko, and he owned Nicola's Barbecue, okay? It's a great barbecue joint. If you're in Detroit, it's up by like 9 Mile and Telegraph, and they've got great food. But they sponsored me by paying for my gym membership. For the first couple, like for a couple, 2-3 years, something like that. And they just asked, they're like, hey, we'll print off a bunch of shirts for you and you can wear them in the gym. They're like, you don't have to wear them all the time, but put the shirts on, wear them in the gym. And that's good promotion for us. You're a good guy. You talk to people and everything. So they're like, we'd love to help you out, man. So they sponsored an MMA guy and then they sponsored me. And Velko knew me from the gym. He'd see me around talking to people and training and stuff. So and I'm still friends with him today. So I was very grateful for it. Like I felt extremely lucky. And they're like, yeah, if there's any clothes you want to have it, like special clothes, because they had t-shirts and stuff, but they're like, we'll get the logo printed on it. I was like, okay. So
like a hoodie or something. Yeah.
And that's what I went and bought a hoodie, and they're like, oh, bring us the receipt, we'll pay for the hoodie. And I was like, oh, don't worry about it. Cause I already felt like they're doing so much for me, and I dropped the shirt off with him, or dropped the hoodie off with him, and I got it back and it had the logo on it and stuff. I was so proud to wear that too and be like, yeah, you know, I got a sponsorship and they're helping me to do this thing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was really grateful for that. And then anytime that I'd ever like stop by, he'd always try to feed me constantly, just food. Anytime, like to this day, man, if I stop by there, he was like, I almost feel bad. Like I don't want to eat. Like I introduced him to Victoria. We were driving by there one day and we walked out of there with like these 2 big boxes of like chicken and everything else. So he's a really cool dude, really cool guy.
So how far away from the gym is he?
I mean, he wasn't close.
I mean, the gym you were at.
He's God, he was a little ways away, honestly.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking like
he lived by the gym that I trained at. So, you know, but then and that's out in Novi, and then he was out in Detroit, like close to Detroit, maybe like 20 minutes away, something like 20 minutes freeway away.
You're still going to get people seeing your shirt. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, you know, gym memberships are probably only what was it, $25 a month back then?
Yeah. I think I paid like $200 a year or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Crazy.
That's awesome. So,
you know,
so on this subject, I want to push this a little further for you guys, because when I owned my stores, people used to come in all the time and ask for sponsorships. And I never felt they understood what the word sponsorship meant. You know, like, because what they mean is, hey, will you give me some money? And that's not a sponsorship. Like, there's supposed to be an ROI on this situation. So what would you guys suggest in a non-digital format? You know, because a lot of people are going to be starting with the barbecue place or the supplement store. How do you present it to where you think you could go to somebody and ask for sponsorship, but provide them value that would make them consider doing it?
It's a great question.
Well, if it's so, I mean, let's say it's a restaurant, you know, are you going to bring a big group of people in once in a while or something like that? You know, say, hey, every, once a month after leg day, I'm going to bring in 5 guys and we're all going to eat our faces off. You know what I mean? Like there's something like that you can do for them to, because, maybe every time you come in, you bring one person who hasn't been there yet or something like that. Like put in that sort of effort to help out the business. There can be casual agreements that you can come to or actual, written agreements you can come to, obviously. But, you can't just say sponsor me and then they just give you money and then they never see you again. Like, you know what I mean? You got to bring your friends into the store. Come by and say hi with your buddies after you train. Show them around. Say, hey, I got to show you this store. It's really nice, So they like that sort of stuff. I mean, it could be anything as simple as that to like I said with the restaurant thing where you kind of plan to bring some buddies in and actually pig out and spend a bunch of money, But you got to have something that you can offer them, I don't know. That's just a random idea.
Yeah.
The reason I asked is because I feel like that's the missing link, because people would do that. They would come in when I had the stores and they're like, hey, I would like you to sponsor me. I said, okay, what do you propose? And they're like,
you just give me stuff.
I'm wrestling and I need $500. And I'm like, no, that sounds terrible. Like there has to be a return on investment. I think it's the reason I like to point it out, because if Ron and I were going to get into our actual sponsors that moved on from there, you might notice that. So I got my first sponsor in 2006. Okay. A supplement sponsor. I've had 3. It's almost 2024 and I've never not been sponsored since. Yeah. So that's something I think you got to see. Are you providing value? And it should be your goal in life. Like, I signed a 3-year contract with Mutant last year. I didn't say, oh, cool, and then relax. It's like, all right, now I got to, even though I've proven it for however many years, I got to continue to prove value.
Right.
Donna does not like when you don't provide value.
Yes. Donna requires value at all times. High value. High value.
So it is important, though, that you guys think about that, because I don't think enough people pay attention to when their favorite athlete goes from company to company to company. I'm like, that's not a good sign. Yeah. Like chances are the companies are not getting the ROI they thought they were going to get. Because I promise you, if I could make Mutant $10 million a year, they'd gladly pay me too. Like all you got to do is look at how much they're paying and make sure that you are creating revenue for them that would not exist to pay yourself. It's not that hard. But if you're not thinking that way, like there will be a reason that you don't have, what would you say, Ron? You've been with Mutant for 12 years.
Yeah. Like coming on there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've been retired for how many?
Yeah. 7.
Yeah. So think about that. I mean, that means there's continuous value that's undeniably being provided. And I really just, when I see these questions, I always hope we can get that through, because if this is your ultimate goal, like so many people, then think like you're on their side of the table, you know, because I promise you, anybody who's ever come to me, if you create a way to make me enough money, I'll pay you 300 grand a year. No problem. If you're making me $1 million, forget it. So keep that in mind, guys and girls, when you're looking for sponsors, because most of you are not worth the paper that the agreement is signed on for these companies.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I remember when I was with Muscletech, and I was with him for like 1.5 years, and then I got a call one day from the guy, and he's like, "Hey, just letting you know, we're pretty much letting everybody go today. There's no renewals. They're renewing like Phil, and that was like almost it."
I remember when that happened.
Yeah. And we were like, "Oh, okay." And then I called a few of the other guys that were with Muscletech. I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" They're like, "I just got off the phone with Muscletech." I was like, "Oh, me too." It's like they just let everybody go. They did like this. Jay left, because that was when Jay didn't re-sign with them, and he left. And then they just did a big, like, blanket wide dump off. You remember that, Scott?
I do. Yeah. Cause there were a lot of smaller people that were sponsored by them too. Like, you know, local guys that were really good, national level guys,
from,
you know,
like the ambassadors all the way up to like the pros. They had almost no one left, but I think Phil was like the only guy they kept.
Yeah, they cut mostly everybody out, but before that, it was like, man, Branch. That was like the booth to go to when I wanted to like go meet the pros, you know, because you get in line, and that line would have like, it would start with like Johnny Jackson, and then it would go to like Branch, and then it would go to Dexter, and then it would go to Jay, and it was like just the list of everybody you wanted to meet was right there, and they just had it lined right up. Even when Dexter was Mr. Olympia, they still had Jay at the end, like the final guy that you got to meet. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Jay would be at the end if the current Mr. Olympia was standing next to him. And that is not a shot on Derek.
No.
That is just who Jay is.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I have now that we're just derailing our show like we always do, my favorite Muscletech story is that when Jose signed with them, because he had just come off of, I think he broke his leg or something, so he was fat, you know, and they got working together, and so they said, well, we're not going to give you anything, but we want to use your before and afters, and so they agreed to pay him 10 grand for any shows he won. So, which of course was a safe bet. He looked like dog shit, and we're good to go. And after his 3rd in a row, they paid him and said, we're not doing this anymore.
That is the best story ever. That is amazing.
Like 30K deep. They're like, we don't want to play this game with you anymore.
I can just picture Jose's face right now, just walking through and cleaning up. 10K. Yeah, just clean it up.
That's awesome. I remember when they flew me out to do one of those before and after shoots. So I remember they flew me to Toronto, and they had like this crazy gym set up, this awesome facility, right? It was very, very impressive. The nonstop the constant buffet restaurant they have there at headquarters and everything. It was awesome. Yeah. So I go out there, and I saw like the real gym. They had dumbbells up to 200. Everything was like so immaculate and all awesome gym. And then they had the fake dumbbells. And I saw like the big 100-pound dumbbells I was doing the shoot with and stuff. And then fake Ivanko plates and everything. They had all these fake weights in the photo shoot area. And then I did the before shoot, and I was like 315 pounds or something. And I did the before shoot. And then they flew me home. And then after my show, I flew out and did like an after shoot, like 2 days after my show. And I looked great. Like, I think I even looked a little better than the show, where I was just like fuller and looked great. And then when the photos came out, I was like blown away, because they didn't shop the in shape photos. They were real. They made me look way worse in the before pictures.
No way.
Because I had the before pictures. Like, I had pictures of what I look like.
Yeah.
And I held them up next to the before pictures that were in the ad, and they like shaved off my tricep and they shaved my delts down, and then they pulled my waist out a little bit.
Damn.
Just a bit. And they just squared me up like a block and made my hips a little wider. And then I swear my head, I swear, yeah. I swear my head was a little bigger. Like,
no kidding.
You know what I mean? Just and I just looked so terrible in the before pictures, like the worst imaginable. And then in the after pictures, I'm like, 260 shredded.
Yeah.
Right. It was hilarious to me because I was concerned they were going to not concerned, but I assumed they were going to shop the after pictures and they would look unrealistically good.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was the opposite.
That just made you look unrealistically bad.
That's smart because people aren't going to expect them to make you, you know what I mean? They're going to eyeball the after pictures, and you know what I mean? They're not going to be like, oh, that guy looks way fatter than he would have been,
Yeah.
He was never that fat.
Yeah.
Especially people who didn't like Ron. They were like, he was absolutely that fat.
Yeah.
Terrible. Horrible. Yeah. Yeah. Brutal.
We had a bunch of listener questions if you guys wanted to tackle any of them. I don't know if you guys had anything else. Okay. Here's a comment. Do a watch party with Lee Priest to a Sean Ray training video.
It might be unairable. Definitely not monetized.
Yeah, somebody said, Scott, you're not even, don't even pretend that you guys are going to monetize a Lee Priest episode.
This is true.
How about this? Okay. This is from Patreon, too. I think Thick Gary. I think he's a new guy because I haven't seen him post before over there. He says, do you notice any stereotypes associated with clothing brands in the gym? Example, it seems the teens wear Gymshark stringers that can't re-rack their weights, or the old guys wearing the fake animal hooded tanks doing every exercise an inch from the rack.
Well, gym stereotypes are fun, but I also try to avoid them too. I don't know. There's exceptions to everything. The thing that triggered me about that whole thing was the standing an inch from the rack. Don't do that. That bothered me. It distracted me from any
other words.
I was like, wait, whatever's going on here, don't stand in front of the rack.
I do remember a good decade ago when literally every single guy who wore a tap out shirt thought that he was like a pro MMA fighter. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. They're at home on Xbox. Rear naked choke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys wearing tap out shirts playing Xbox.
Yeah. Shave their head, next step, and then they just walk around looking like they're tough.
Right.
I was
looked at the ears. The ears.
Oh yeah, there's your fact.
Ears are fucked up. You do not want to fuck that guy around.
Yeah, we're good.
It started the F-bombs.
All right, so here's the thing. This is my honest opinion. Typically, if you see a guy that's a bodybuilder, percentage-wise, chances are he's the biggest douche in the gym. It just never, and the reason I say that is because I see
statistically,
like I don't understand what it is. I mean, I had a guy, he's asked me 3 times on my Q&A if I think that people that are in the gym training their ass off have more rights to the equipment, and I'm like, no. Your membership is $40, their membership is $40, and that's the end of it. And it's a sad world that you would ask me that 3 times because you do not want me to answer this publicly. It's going to be ruthless.
$80 in Canada, Dusty. 80.
Well, so it's 30 in the US.
No money is just worth less and less by the day.
But it sounds terrible to say, but I really do think that those are funny things because I know this because when someone meets a bodybuilder who doesn't just talk about I and me the whole time, they're shocked. Yeah. When you're nice, when you speak well, when I try to make sure to say hello to everyone in the gym every day and just knock down that, especially because I'm in a new gym right now, like break down the stereotype immediately. And I wish more bodybuilders would, because that is why we have the reputation we do. Because then you could turn around and do 9 plate hat squats, screaming your face off, and no one cares. They're like, oh, that's Dusty. He's nice.
We've been through this a bunch of times. Remember that story about when I trained at that World Health for 2 years straight?
Yep.
And the other guys would be like, how come I get in trouble? And I'm like, it's because they don't like you.
Yep.
You make it difficult to like you. That's why you get in trouble for everything you do. I'm just nice to everyone. Hey, how's it going? Say hi to the manager, shake his hand, tell him you appreciate that the leg press got moved into a better spot after you suggested it. And then he listened to you. Yeah. And now you're happy. And then you have a relationship with the people there and like all that stuff. It's just, yeah, you're right, Dusty. I still see the odd bodybuilder, right? And I just think you're a good person, but you really need to get over yourself.
Yep.
Like you really, really need to realize that what you're doing doesn't matter at all to anyone else here.
Yep.
They're all just working out.
Fact.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit what level your contest is or how many weeks out you are or how low your carbs are. And I don't give a shit. And as a gym owner, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? And bodybuilders, and I went through this myself for a long time. And there's periods of time when I even checked myself as a bodybuilder. Like, I got to get over myself. I don't like the attitude I had about that situation. Or you know what I mean? Like, there's always like, you know, I look back on how many years I spent in the mindset of being like super, super duper, ultra, extra special hardcore, you know?
Yeah.
And you just got to get over yourself about it, man. Doesn't mean anything to anybody else. Nobody cares. You're just working out, and just try to not give off the vibe that, you know, like don't go hover by a machine and huff and puff.
Yeah.
Hurry up. How many sets you got left? And then they say 2 and you're like that sort of thing. That's just.
There's a guy who, I think I told you guys about Fat Rambo a long time ago. This guy walking around in a tank top. He had like a really thick chest, but I think it was mostly fat, you know?
Right.
And he just kind of like puff it out like that. And he had like a do-rag wrapped up into a bandana. And he didn't know this guy, men's physique guy, little dude, but he, like, great back. Goes up to he goes, hey, watch this. He'd walk up to people and be like, hey, how many sets you got left while I'm working in? And try to kick people off machines. And he did that to my client. He didn't know that I knew the guy. And I came over and just tore him a new one. I was like, what do you think you're doing, man? Like, you realize he was on that machine. Like, this is ridiculous. You know, I just literally just dressed him down right in front of everybody at the gym. And he thought he was like trying to impress me or something like that. You know what I mean?
That does not impress me that you're an ass. I'm glad that you call him Fat Rambo, because you reminded me of yet another mistake I made that I got in trouble for. I actually got a text message when Harmonica Guy came up.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. It was a great.
And
story.
I was like, can't be touched. Like 2 days after the show was set out, I get a text. I got a bone to pick with you, it says. I'm like, oh, what? Open it up. She's like, Harmonica Guy? You're not going to even bring in the fact that we have Zumba lady that puts books on her head and dances? And I'm like, I forgot about her.
Of course you would. Like, it's become normal to you.
Yeah, you've noticed.
She also has a waistband belt thing that like sounds like maracas when she shakes, but she puts things on her head and dances in the corner. I was like, ooh, I did leave her out, and I have forgotten. And she was right. I owed an apology for. I don't even know what to name her at this point. Because we just walk in the gym, I'm like, she's doing it again.
That's wild.
That's funny. I thought of a couple more.
Guy, I think.
Yeah, Harmonica Guy, Maraca woman. Wow. I thought of a couple funny people that we've had over the years that I didn't mention. We had one woman. She didn't actually work out at our gym. Well, she would occasionally get on the treadmill and just go crazy for like 2 hours straight. But she would come in and she would use a tanning bed. And then she would come in later that day and want to tan again.
Oh.
And she was like super, super dark, like as dark as you can get. Like you can't tan any more than that. And so, of course, sometimes like way back when we first opened, sometimes like there'd be a different staff member working and they just put her in the tanning bed. But then we came up with the system where we had to make sure you could only tan once a day because there's like rules and stuff about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, geez, she's coming in twice a day. And I'd like put a stop to it. And then she left because we caught on. Damn. But she was like addicted to tanning.
You sure her name wasn't Skip Hill?
Sharp Spin is just full of melanotan syringes.
Yes, exactly.
Why is the Sharp Spin filling up so much with melanotan syringes? It's funny. No. But yeah, like just, that sort of thing. You see some of the interesting ones when they come out of the woodwork.
That's great. You're like, I also find that funny that the government needs to be involved in how often I tan, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
This is Canada, remember? This is Canada.
They are here too, though. It's 24 hours.
Oh, no, they have it here too.
Yeah.
There's actually some places here where they want to do 24 hours, like to the hour.
Oh, yeah.
No, you came at 5 yesterday. It's 3 right now. I'm like,
I've done that. Yeah. It was a mess.
So I just don't go there. Yeah. What else we got, Scott?
How about this one? How do you guys deal with lower back pumps during the off season? He's reaching 230 for the first time.
That's usually like a post-show rebound type of a thing for me. I mean, well, first of all, I mean, you can screw up if you set your workout up incorrectly and wind up with a lower back pump off the bat and have to manage it for the rest of your workout, which is always the worst. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of it is a flexibility and mobility issue. The tighter and less flexible you are, the more prone you're going to be to, like, some guys will do lying leg curls and they're like, my lower back just blew up. And I'm like, well, that shouldn't, like, you got a tightness problem and a flexibility issue in your lower back if you're blowing up your lower back on leg curls. You know what I mean? It's not like you're doing stiff legged deadlifts with 400 pounds and that wouldn't be as shocking. So yeah, and post show is when things get sort of waterlogged and tight, so that's kind of why that happens. But if it's, if you're having all these issues later in the off season and you're in pretty good shape, then I don't know what to tell you. You should probably look at mobility and flexibility, I'd say.
I'm guessing it's a lot of water. It's not like in pretty good shape. He said he's hitting 230 for the first time in his life.
Yeah, he's popped out.
Yeah. He's probably got a lot of fluid. What do you think, Dusty?
I just speak from personal, and anytime my low back was tight, I was fat.
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Like not, heavy. And I am just to say this, huge proponent of getting big in the off season.
Yes.
Unless your metabolism is slow and you have a hard time losing fat. I used to get heavy. Like, I just looked fat. But as soon as you cross the line where my low back was an issue, I'm like, I'm too fat, and I would lean down a little bit and I was fine. So be careful, because when I see, like you said, the words 230 for the first time, I think you're chasing a scale. And we've all done it, so I ain't hating, but if it's getting in the way of your training, your weight is limiting your success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember whenever I took Anadrol, I would wait for the crazy incapacitating shoulder pump that would hit eventually. Like maybe third, fourth week in, you'd be doing shoulders and you have to put your arms up on like a machine between sets because you can't just stand there with them hanging, or they just feel like they're going to swell till they pop. Yeah. So you have to put your arms up between every set, and you're actually in pain for like a large portion of the shoulder workout. Like every set, when you put your arms down, you're like, oh, you do another crazy set and then you put your arms up again. I used to get the most horrendous shoulder pumps when I took Anadrol, and I thought that it was a good thing. So I would like purposely like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Blow these delts up, Yeah.
But
yeah. That's like a marker in my head. I remember how that felt.
All right. Absolutely. How about this one? My goal is to win Arnold's under Weinberger judging and shake hands with the right people. Do you think that's the wrong approach for bodybuilding?
I don't even understand. That's, I don't know. Dusty, where do you start? I think I know what he means.
I'm going to assume I know what it means. So if your goal is to win the Arnold, then under Weinberger, then do that. Meet the right people. Like that's either going to happen or it's not, I mean, I don't, a lot of people win a lot of shows that I never hear of ever again. Right. So, I'd want a more exact, what is your actual goal? Like, is that the end?
Yeah.
Like, why do you want to meet these people? What do you want to do? Like, I mean, it sounds like a funny response, but it really does matter, because, you want to win the Arnold, meet right people. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad approach to bodybuilding, but I don't know what it's going to do.
Here's an idea. Let's try to make something constructive out of this particular example.
Yeah.
I find some people say, like we're on Instagram, we're watching all these motivators, we got Gary V coming through and, Huberman coming, we got all these motivators coming through, right? All these business people and stuff. And so people think, well, got to make my vision board and set my goals. So they put the Rolls Royce on their vision board and they say, I want to win the Arnold, right? That's great. But none of that happens without having the goal of, I need to get 8 reps with 5 plates on the hack squat. And I need to hit 220. I need to get to 220. And I need to put a 1/4 inch on my arms. And I need to, those goals are how you get to those big things that you've set. And so the small goals and the constantly hitting and achieving and reinforcing and building your confidence and your stride and your momentum through all those small goals, those are all the bricks that get you to the Rolls Royce and the Arnold. You know what I mean?
Right. No, for sure.
Like, I want to get my pro card. I'm like, okay, how many little victories do you have to win to get your pro card? Because it's a lot.
Yeah.
You got to win thousands of little battles, thousands and thousands of little battles. You have to win all these little battles with yourself. You have to win all these little battles with adversities that come through. Like, you're going to have to win all these little battles in the gym. You're going to have to eke out all these reps that you didn't think you could get. You're going to have to do all these things. So realize that, or you just, if you're unaware of all those little things and you're just focusing on like this dream, it's not how things work, I don't think.
I agree 1,000,000%. I mean, I definitely, for example, I don't care which show it is, but I will say it is fun to win a show that Steve's judging. And the reason I say that is because I respect Steve, respect all the judges, but Steve the most, because I know him well enough and he is not capable of BS. And if you look good and he tells you look good, it's the greatest compliment in bodybuilding, so that part I definitely get. But again, then take the big goal, like Ron said, and work backwards. What does it take to do that? And understand that your goal of winning the Arnold might be 5 Arnolds from now that you do. Are you willing to do that?
Right.
Because that's the part that I feel has gotten lost somewhere along the way. It's like, it's a great goal, and I hope you're happy with that. I hope if you go and get 7th this year, your goal is to win the Arnold next year. And if you get 4th and you come back and you keep rolling, because that is where you will get that thing I think you're actually looking for. Because when Steve looks up and says, "Oh, you again," go to the middle. It means a little more. You know what I mean? And then people will see you come up, and as far as meeting people, then that's on who you are as a person. And that goes back to our comments earlier about don't be a douche. And that'll take care of itself. I've met a lot of great people in this industry who are far superior at bodybuilding than me. And they don't care about that side if you're solid for the industry and for the business. So keep your eye on those things as well then, because it plays a role. There's a lot of better athletes than the people you see that are in those places you want to be.
Yep. Yeah.
Well
Very
said.
well said.
I knew you guys would have good advice.
Wow. Occasionally.
We are
Occasionally
a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Slips out. Yeah. When a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Exactly.
Ooh, I wanted to make sure we squeezed this one in.
One of the top 10 quotes of yours.
Just want to say thank you for
go over the number 1 quote.
We can't do that on YouTube.
It's a ring, isn't it? There's the nod.
Dusty has a secret quote that I won't say. Go ahead, Scott.
I want to hear that later. Just wanted to thank you guys for encouraging me to do HIIT weight training. I've gotten stronger and more muscular at 53. Also, did you know that the Jeffit app shows, specifically the combination of reps and weights, will beat the last 1 rep max. I can't figure out how to attach screenshots. I thought there was a question in here, but there isn't. But we did encourage a 53-year-old guy to try high intensity training, and
that's awesome.
He's doing some awesome stuff. So there's that. So I guess it wasn't a question. Yeah.
Well, the app sounds like it might be valuable for powerlifters if it's like percentage of all the prediction of 1 rep max and stuff. That's probably tied in with a lot of that. You know what I mean? Yeah, because they can train in like the 3 to 5 rep range and kind of estimate what their 1 rep hit's going to be and all that stuff. So that's kind of a cool app. That's interesting.
Dusty, I think you might have mentioned this before. Dante doesn't suggest people doing DC that are like in their 40s to go with the same rep ranges that he would. What about this guy training with heavy weights at 53? Is there any advice you would give him, being an experienced guy with, high intensity stuff?
The biggest thing is exactly what you just said, which is heavy weight does not mean low reps. And that's where things get confused. So at 53 years old, if I was writing like a DC program for a 25-year-old, then a low rep range for like deadlifts is going to be like 6 to 8, and then a drop back of 10 to 12 or 12 to 15. For you, my heavy would be 12 to 15 for sure. And then we would lighten up on the drawback, because you need to make sure to keep that in mind is we have mileage. And if you want to see progression, the biggest key is to not get injured. And you just can't, especially if you're getting very, very big gains in strength, because you got to remember your joints and everything else, they're not there. There will be some form of an issue along the way. So definitely pull the weight back and understand still progression. I keep track of my numbers when I do sets of 30. I'm still trying to beat it, and that's right. And you will also find, I wish I knew some of this when I was younger, because some of my movements, I'm like, man, I should have been training this way my whole career. A brutal set of like a leg press to 50. And if it's truly a set to 50, where at 35, you're like, there's no way. And you find your way there. That is a different pain that creates muscle for sure versus, loading up tens. And I partially, credit Ron for this, because it was something that he said to me years ago. He's like, you got to figure out a way to make this weight heavier, because it's no longer smart to go heavier.
Yeah.
I was watching Dusty get so strong at one point that I was starting to like cringe watching some of his hack squat videos, because I was like, Jesus, like, because I'm the type of person, like I'm, you can't just infinitely add plates, like, you know what I mean? And
eventually
he's got like, he's on like an old school hack and it's full, and he's like pounding out sets. I'm like, damn, like you can't add any more plates, bro. Like, can we take some plates off? Like, we got to figure this, because the last thing I want to see is you get hurt. And I think I'd already blown a quad at that point. So I was like real sensitive. I was like, damn, But
it becomes a smart way to look at it, because then it was funny, because we had that conversation. I was like, well, the only thing that was making it harder was more weight.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to just do more reps, because that became for hacks sometimes, like versus a leg press, it becomes a cardio issue more than strength. So first it was like, all right, we'll do a 4 count negative. Then it was, well, let's do a 6 count negative. And then when my strength started coming back up again, it was like, all right, let's do a 6 count negative with a pause at depth. And all of those things made it very, very hard. It did. I mean, I stopped putting plates on top of the machine, so that was cool. And it was definitely safer. And I think I started getting better results, because my body was like, oh, what are you doing? You're not just throwing on more weight, So be mindful of that at all ages, but definitely 40s, 35 and up, you really need to start thinking that way, especially if you're like us and the gym is our place, because you get injured, you ain't going in there for a while, and that sucks.
Yeah. Yep. Risk to reward, definitely lower for older guys, especially with the rest pause sets. Like you might aim for a total number of reps of like 15 to 20 total reps on a rest pause, right, Dusty? For a guy like you, or a younger guy,
yeah.
a guy,
depending on what it is, but
maybe you get 10 on your first round.
Older guy, you're going to go even heavier. Higher reps.
Yeah, older guy, you want to get 15 on the opener, because you need to get at least 5 or 6 on the second round. You know what I
mean?
mean?
The other thing to factor in, which Dante just messaged me on the other day, which is funny, I just realized I didn't respond yet, is he talks about how at his age, and he's like early 50, 50, something around that, I can't remember exactly, he has to warm up a lot longer.
Yeah.
As you're older, don't think, when you get on an incline, it's not 135, 225, 315, 405. Like, don't do that. Take your time, and you should be able to quickly go through the warm-ups, relatively quick. You go, your partner goes back and forth. Then you take your nice break, and then you do your working set. But really get warm. I mean, even me, I'm 42 and have done plenty of damage between hockey and bodybuilding. Yesterday for hacks, I did 3 sets with a plate aside. Then I went up to 2 plates, right. Then up to 3, then to 4. Then from 4, I went to 6. Like, now my body's moving, so be really mindful of that, because that's something when you don't realize, but when you're young, like literally it's like, I used to start my squats at 225 because it was just a waste of time to do 135.
Right.
We'll go right to 225.
You couldn't even squat down with less than 2 plates.
I needed that to push me down to the ground.
Yeah.
So that's another factor. I'm glad I thought of that, because he was just saying that. And it is enormous. I mean, if you watch if it was an incline barbell press and you watch my first set with 135, things are so tight, it looks like I've never done it before. Like, my body's like moving in the most awkward ways. Then I rack it, come back 30 seconds later, do it again, and now it starts moving. So keep those things in mind, either when you're older or when you're young and you just feel not quite on. And definitely listen to those things. I mean, like I said, we were out of town for a day and stayed in a hotel, and we went to legs yesterday. Last week I did 8 1/4 plates aside on hacks for like 10 or something. This week I went to 7 and said, I'm going to go slower today. We're doing 7 plates.
Right.
It was just as brutal, but it was like, my body's talking to me a little bit. That left knee's saying things. I feel like my foot's turning out. Yeah, let's just not. So really be mindful of that, because I really think when you get older, we don't get away with the murder we used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, gentlemen, is that it for an episode? Do we have an episode here?
I've got a shout out.
Oh, yes. Let's do shout outs.
I have 2, because my wife bought me cookies today. So I've been eating these quietly. They're Biscoff cookies with like the Biscoff stuff in them. They're like an Oreo, but with Biscoff. So they're so good. Yes. Thank you, Victoria. So I've been eating. I put my microphone on mute, and I've been eating them through the show. There's that. And
pre-workout.
Yeah, post workout. Shout out to Phil, my client over the weekend. He did really good. This is his first contest, and what was really cool is, let me see if I can size these up. There we go. They gave him a most conditioned award. He got the most shredded award at the show.
That's a great award.
Which that is so cool.
A great show.
Yeah. And Brent Swanson was there, who comes in absolutely peeled, and he was like, "Damn, man, you looked really good. Good job."
That's awesome.
So if he can get a compliment from Brent, then we know we're on the right track.
Well,
so this is his first show.
And sending you pictures where you can see his legs and glutes.
Yes, exactly.
See how he looks.
So that first show is the morning before we left for the show. So he isn't quite perfectly filled out there. But then that next shot was after he was glazed up and he was ready to go. But yeah, he nailed it. And he listened to me all the way through. So, he did a great job. And he listens to all the podcasts too. So he listened to all of us all along the way. And I think he said he made a post over the weekend.
Yeah,
and he said, if I could bring the mindset that Scott would respect, the posing that Ron would respect, and the conditioning that Dusty would respect, then I know that I had a package that I did the best I could.
Oh, that's funny. I appreciate that. No, that was great to see. And, just knowing that people are like actually watching the show, and it's like motivating them to, keep marching on the treadmill or whatever they got to do. Like that's awesome. We're just sitting here rattling around about cookies and
glad you didn't listen to this episode.
Talking of it's funny. It's funny to me. So that's really cool. Because that's what I call, like, those are the real bodybuilders. That's what bodybuilding is. Yeah.
People
think bodybuilding is like Phil Heath and Derek Farm, you know, like it's not, it's all those guys going to their first show.
Yep.
And just trying to get in shape and hoping they do, you know, like that's what 99% of bodybuilders are. They're guys like that. They just want to see what they can do. And that's awesome to see. Great condition. Yeah. Dusty had a guy did good this weekend too. So congrats on him as well.
Yeah, we had a nice little weekend. We you know, it's one of those. I have a guy who he literally works at the time all over the place. So he would move somewhere, work for a while, move somewhere, work for a while, working weird hours, just kind of balancing it all. And it's nice to see it all come together. Yeah, because it just proves you can have excuses, you know, for all the reasons you can't get it done. But when you know. Then you have a guy like Adam, he just locked it through, and we're actually going to be on a conversation today because the next step for him is just trying to eliminate all those outside things that you do have control over, what'll make it a lot easier. You know, it's when the full package came through, and then because you guys know how it is. I mean, when you work with your clients, you're in with them, and you kind of spend a moment looking back, and you're like, okay, this went well, but where was something we could eliminate or we could add that would make it better? And my first thought was, we got to get your life less hectic.
Right.
Because you did this in spite of all of these things. You know, and some things are unavoidable, obviously, on the job front and things like that. But there are things that we bring in as newer competitors that we don't realize how off they are. You know, it's like, you know, it's not selfish to have that little bit of time where you prioritize. It's like, Scott, you and I talked about a long time ago, as far as like, I don't believe in life balance, but there's times when you give 100% of your effort into one thing. And then when that show is over, you can slide some of that effort back where it belongs, you know? So I look forward to that too, because at the end of the day, the idea is a better look. And when they start getting really good, you're like, okay, to get better than this, we got to go to a new place. And what we did to get to that was fantastic, but there's no way at that level to push you further. So you're going to have to go to a new place, which means eliminate some things and focus on this goal if you want to. In his case, I know he does. So it's like, all right, if you want to be a pro, and I do think you have the genetic capability, this is the stuff that's going to have to alter to make that happen, you know, and then it's completely feasible. And I think it's important to have that conversation, because too many coaches go, you could go pro. I'm like, we can go pro if.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you what the if is, and then you tell me if you still want to. And if you don't, bro, I get it. Because if you ask me now if I want to do what it takes, it's no. Like, you know, I mean, I know you're the same, Ron. Like, I had somebody ask me recently. They were like, what if somebody offered you $100,000 to like do a show? I was like, I make $100,000 easier than that. I don't want to do that. Sounds awful.
The worst way to make $100,000 for me.
That takes me back. That takes me back to my very first show. I remember seeing a light heavyweight that I thought looked so good, and he did. He looked great, especially my perspective at the time. And I thought, man, I want to look like that guy one day. And he told me backstage, he was like, you can take this as far as you're willing to go.
Yep.
That was it. You take it as far as you're willing to go. That's exactly a different way of saying what you're saying, Dusty.
I like your way. It was much faster.
There's speedy answers. This kind of, I know we've sort of toyed with the topic before, like, you know, like how much credit do coaches deserve and how much blame do coaches deserve, and, you know, all good or bad. And I know that it's kind of that's a target that never stops moving depending on who you're talking about and the situation. But at the end of the day, you know, I mean, I spent my whole life I've been helping people get ready for shows. I don't even like the term coach, but I think at the end of the day, you're responsible for how you look. Like, you're the one who's looking in the mirror. You're the one who is seeing your leg and your arm, and you're seeing, like, you're responsible. And, you know, like we said, if you're sending bad pictures to your coach, now he really doesn't know what's going on, you know, like that sort of thing. So, or if you're late with your pictures, like before you get sort of like, I think that the most important thing to do after a show to, you know, when we're asking those questions, how can you get better? Look inside first. How can I get better? Start there. A lot of people start outside first.
It's huge, man.
Right? You know, how can I get better? Oh, well, you know, my girlfriend was mean to me, and then my buddy, you know, wasn't calling me back for a while. So like that was kind of his fault. And then like, you know, work was stressful. No. Look inside yourself first. How can you get better? Can you get better at managing that type of stuff? Maybe you can get better at not letting that stuff interfere with your life. Maybe you can get better at staying calm. Maybe you can get better at not micromanaging things that your coach doesn't even want you worrying about. You know, like if you're going to blame your coach and then say, yeah, I mean, there were these 20 things, because I've seen this too. People go, yeah, you know, my coach was good, but, you know, I had to do all these other things with all these other supplements because he wasn't really into that stuff. I'm like, well, so now you're doing a whole bunch of stuff with supplements that your coach doesn't know about? What were you doing? Right? And they're like, oh, I was taking this and this and this and this and this. Oh, well, that's like an extra 220 calories worth of aminos you were taking in every day. So they like it all comes together. You got to be communicative, got to be open, got to be, you know, just all that stuff. But I think looking inside and taking responsibility for how you manage your, you know, mindset is first and foremost when you come out of a show. You know, it might not be the easiest thing to do right off the bat, right? It might take you, some people a couple months to realize that they got to look at that stuff, but that's important too, you know.
Mindset in life. You know, I talked to a lady at the gym this week who's getting ready to do nationals, and it's like her first season, and she knows she's not at that level, but is doing the show. And I said, look, you have what you have. So take it to the show because you've already made that decision. Do your thing, but then you got to step back, and that's where you said that's where you evaluate and say, okay, well, how bad do I want to do this? Because that next level is a lot further away than people realize, and what it takes to reach it is pretty high. And then you just ask, is that really worth it to me? Because if it's not, don't waste your time. You know what I mean? Like, you can have a great physique, you can have a great body, you can do all these things, you can look like a bodybuilder. You know, I mean, I don't feel like Ron is less of a bodybuilder now. He's retired and has less muscle mass. He lives bodybuilding every day, but not to the extreme he used to, because the goals have changed, you know? And I think that's an important thing for people to look at, because if you go back to 2010 to 2014, don't come at me unless you're coming at 120%. I will kill you, because I only had one goal in mind. That was it. You know, it was like a totally different place. And I think it's important that you understand that there are me's with much better genetics waiting for you at that level. So
there you go.
You're not going to 80% and beat them. You're going to need 110% and hope they miss something. That's the only way to beat them.
And listen to Dusty now versus having to learn the lesson the hard way, because I've known a lot of people that have done it that way and said, oh, I got to get my crap together at this point, or they get their egos hurt so bad that they're done, you know, one of the two.
There's a lot of those. I think my favorite story was Chris Cook. He went and he lived in Alaska, and he went to nationals for the first time. He qualified, so he went, and he showed up late, and he was a heavyweight, and he walks and he's like, oh. And he sees everyone lined up. He goes, when did the heavies go? And he asks the competitor guy, goes, I'm a middleweight.
Yeah.
And he goes, right in that moment, I realized I spent $5,000 to watch a bodybuilding show. Because he was like, this guy was so big, but he was so light. I'm like,
that's
he goes,
funny.
I didn't know what bodybuilding was until I walked into that room. And they said, when I saw what a heavyweight looked like standing next to me, he's like, it's going to be a long day.
You go to do middleweights and everybody only comes up to your chest.
Yeah.
You walk backstage, you're the tallest guy.
If it was basketball, you could have won.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel tall all of a sudden.
Yeah. I always thought those are great stories, because obviously nowadays I don't get it. Like, I just went to a couple of USAs and I was like, oh, it's going to be a few years before I'm ready to do this. Got it. You know, your little gym in Scottsdale doesn't tell you the truth of the world. You know?
You're great, Dusty. You're going to blow them away. You know, all your friends.
That was my first overall, Scott. I won the Border States in October.
Okay.
And Nationals was like 3 weeks later in November. And I remember I was at a show the next weekend in town. They're like, you're doing nationals, right? And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, I don't want to go get annihilated in front of my friends and family.
Yeah.
Hell no. Like,
Ride this high a little while.
And they thought I was crazy. They're like, what? Really? You look great. I'm like, for this level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For that one. I mean, it'd have been like last call out. Not you, Dusty. We're going to have you wait till after the last call. Then you can come forward.
Right.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's true. Okay, and it's so funny. Chris Cook, another guy that went from last call out to winning his pro card too. It's another example.
And another guy who matches our story for sponsorships because he was making six figures before he was a pro.
Yep. And he was another guy that Aceto turned pro after he worked with a bunch of other guys. And I remember the famous story of Chris cutting his drugs in half, and he was like, but how can this make sense? And Chris was like, I don't know, your body's a mess. Just cut your drugs in half. And then he looked better. He looked better. And then Chris walked into the room. What was the quote? Chris walked into his room after he turned pro, and he was sitting there holding his trophy. And Chris goes, how do you feel? And he looked up at Chris, goes, I thought it was all drugs. He's like,
it was all clarity.
He goes, I thought it was all drugs, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow. Yeah. It's a great story.
Yeah, those are some of my favorites. All right.
Okay, is this a wrap for an episode, boys? Last
third
5-minute
wrap.
crew. They made it third wrap. I just go by how anxious Scott looks.
Like, shit, I'm looking at my watch.
We ran out of cookies.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Are we just talking about the same thing for too long? Is that's why he's anxious? He's giving us the wrap-up signal.
We do that.
We're good to go.
Gotta move on.
Yes, move on. I didn't get a move on this episode. That's good.
We did good. We did good.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, remember everyone, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
And remember, IamMutant.com makes a big difference. Go to the IamMutant.com website. Mutant Hardcore sponsor the show. Dusty 20, Big Ron 20, get your 20% off. ISO Surge, all in, and everyone should get on the gear. And remember the Patreon for Think Big Bodybuilding. Yes. That's a great thing you can do. Just throw the cost of a cup of coffee at the Patreon or whatever you want, and help Scott finance the channel and all the great shows on Think Big. So remember the Think Big Bodybuilding Patreon.
Thank you, guys.
Super producer homed. Yes, definitely. And you get priority questions and all that stuff. So that's another feature. Okay, guys, we ready to go?
We're good.
We're ready.
Okay. Remember, everybody, it's just bodybuilding.